about that. I was telling Deborah about that yesterday. I was like, it's my first conference. It's like a badge of honor. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the long game and how to build long-term value from each of your users, maximize revenue per user. Quick intro. I'll figure this out at some point, this thing. Or not. There we go. Brilliant. So just real quick on me. So I'm GM of the publisher business at Bouncex. Publishers are the second largest client vertical for us at Bouncex. Our largest vertical is actually e-commerce. We've been around for about 7 years. I've been there for 2. It's the greatest company I've ever worked for, actually. I'm most bullish on Bouncex than I have been any other company I've been at, including companies that I have started myself. So I guess I've drank the Kool-Aid. But we do great work for clients. Hopefully, we can chat about it at some point. This is not going to be a pitch about Bouncex, though. That's pretty much all I'm going to be talking about in terms of the company. So we know that publishers are diversifying their revenue streams, trying to move beyond a sole reliance on advertising revenue. That's been the topic du jour for a little while now. It's, of course, the topic du jour of this conference. We don't need to talk about the why. We just know that publishers are looking to get into subscriptions and memberships and e-commerce and affiliate commerce and events and OTT and all these other things. So lots of different products being thrown into the mix. The sad news is a lot of those efforts may end up falling short. And so I want to talk here about how you can maximize the potential for success when you introduce additional products into the mix. Sorry, I don't know how you're going to see me mess this thing up a lot in the next 10 minutes. So I apologize in advance. So you have tons of users come to your site. They want different things. You now have a diverse product mix, and you need to figure out what to put in front of each user at any given moment. We all know that if you want to get someone to take an action, you can't ask them to do 10 things at once. You can't ask them to do 3 things at once. It's the paradox of choice. You can only ask them to take one action and then hope that they take it. So as you introduce additional products and offerings, you have to figure out for which user, what are you going to put in front of them and get them to do. So you segment, right? Problem is, a lot of publishers are prejudiced in how they segment. Let me dive into that a little bit and humor me with this somewhat silly example I'm about to come up with. So you can just imagine, what if a store, I live in New York, so I'm going to mention getting to the store in a New York way, but what if the store decided to treat me differently depending on whether I arrived at that store in an Uber versus I took the subway there? Just imagine I show up to the Apple store, and the Apple knows that I took an Uber there, and then they show me a certain set of products. But if they found out I showed up by Subway, they show me a different set of products. It's absolutely ridiculous, right? Because sometimes I go to the Apple store in the subway, sometimes I go in an Uber, sometimes I'll walk, sometimes I'll take a bike. It's still me with my same propensity and interest to buy things. And it's up to the store to figure out what I want to do there, regardless of how I got to the store. Problem is, a lot of publishers, when they segment based on traffic source. Oh, if you come from direct, we're going to show you subscription messaging. Or if you come from social, we're going to just show you ads, and tons of them. If you come from search, maybe we'll present you with a call to action to join our newsletter. And it's a very basic, rudimentary way to segment. And frankly, it's prejudice and doesn't make any sense, because sometimes I'll get to CNN from search. Sometimes I'll get there from Facebook. Sometimes I will go direct. And it's still me. So you should be looking at me and treat me the way I should be treated on CNN, for example. Not just, oh, I came from this traffic segment, so let me do that. So that's how I believe that a lot of publishers, when they segment the way, it's just being prejudiced. So we're going to get into what we believe is an appropriate way to look at users, an appropriate way to segment. And you're going to do this through a lifetime value obsession of your users. So most of our problems stem from the fact that we don't actually know who the individual is on our site, right? In order to take a long-term view, you have to know each individual on a person-by-person basis. Once you do that, then you can understand, hey, like when I go to the Apple store, if that store knows me, then they'll know which products are right for me in that visit to the Apple store. Same thing for you guys. So far, I know I'm not blowing anyone's mind. Everyone knows this, right? But you need to be able to understand the individual, know, okay, for this person right now on my site, who are they? What do I know about them? What have they done in the past? What signals are they telling me right now? I don't care how they got here, from Reddit or direct, whatever. what's the right product for me to put in front of them right now? And you can only do that if you actually can identify the individual. This is something, I don't know if you guys know Thomas Backdow. Anyways, brilliant writer on digital media. A couple weeks ago, I did this post on conversion metrics and how it's the wrong thing to be looking at and all that. I'm actually going to talk about that a little bit. But he put forth this, what's called an impact matrix. And as you can see, this follows kind of like the lifetime value of a single user, right? And ideally, you want to take your users, and I know it might be hard to read, I apologize for that, up and to the right, right? So on the x-axis, you just have time, and ideally, you're looking at cohorts of visitors or users over a long period of time, 6 months, several quarters. And then on the y-axis is the value that each individual user brings to your business. Unfortunately, with a myopic view, a lot of publishers spend their time in the lower left-hand quadrant. Impressions, CPM, viewability, visit counts. Okay, fine. It's extremely myopic, though. It's just a snapshot in time. Ideally, you want to start to nudge these people up and to the right. And as they do that, each of them is going to be adding more value to your business, which is, be adding more value to your business. The problem is two major roadblocks in taking that long-term view. Two major roadblocks in thinking of each user on a lifetime value basis. The first roadblock is mental. And this goes back to a little bit of what Thomas Backdow was actually mentioned in that blog post I referenced from a couple weeks ago. Most publishers have that myopic view where they're just like, oh, great. Like, let's look at what our conversion rates were last week. Or how many people we got to join our newsletter. Who cares? That doesn't matter, right? Those vanity metrics do not matter, right? Who cares if you had 100,000 people sign up to your newsletter last month? When was the last time you paid salary or rent in newsletter signups? You don't, right? No one pays salary or rent via newsletter signups or in a conversion rate. You pay in dollars. So yes, the metric of, hey, we signed up this many users to our newsletter last week, that's great, but not in isolation. You need to look at downstream. What are they doing? Are they opening your emails? Are they clicking on your emails? Are they sharing your emails? Are they then going into other products, like a free trial of a paid subscription or an event, or who knows? But if just that one vanity metric alone, if you pat yourself on the back because you got a ton of signups last week, you're doing it wrong. And that's just a vanity metric. And unfortunately, the audience development function, a lot of publishers, they get high in their own supply, and they're like, oh yeah, great, I signed up all these users. It doesn't mean anything to the business. At the end of the day, it's all about dollars. Dollars, dollars, dollars. Keeping your eyes on that prize. So if you're going to look at things like conversion rates or the volume of signups we got last week, make sure you're taking a very long view and seeing what does each of those users that signed up for my newsletter do down the road. All right. So the second roadblock, unfortunately, is a technical one. So if you can get past the mental roadblock of not just looking at the here and now, but taking that bird's eye view of each individual user, you're going to have another roadblock ahead of you, and that's a technical roadblock. So the technical roadblock is simply this. To have that long-term view, you need to have a persistent identifier, because you need to see me across devices, across sessions, browsers, platforms, everything. And the second you lose sight of me and I've gone to another device and you can't follow me to that other device, you've lost me. You can't carry me up and to the right on that value matrix, can you? Because you're going to think I'm a different person. So you need to have a persistent identifier. If they don't last, it's pointless to you. You're never going to be able to create long-term value from your users if you can't keep an eye on them over and over and over again. So yeah, back to this guy. To bring them up to the right, keep an eye on them like a bird's eye view. I mentioned yesterday you need to have a godlike view on them, and someone said, don't say that. But here I did. I just said godlike view. Hopefully I didn't bring so I switched it to bird's eye view. So there's several paths. So going back to this. To get someone up and to the right, it's not just perfectly linear, right? Some people might get there faster or slower. They're gonna oscillate. It's a windy path for some, a straight path for others. There's gonna be different paths. The key is each of those paths is a user, one of your users that's coming to your site from different channels on different devices over a long period of time, and they're gonna have their own path, and you need to cater to them all along that path, right? So it's a person-by-person basis, and cookies are simply not strong enough. If you're a type of publisher that has people logging in every time they come to your site, you're in a very luxurious and advantageous situation. Because they get to your site and they say, hey, I'm here, this is who I am. That's what happens with Facebook, right? You're always logged into Facebook or Instagram. That's what happens with Google. You're logged into Gmail. You're telling those platforms, hey, this is who I am. And so they can follow you all the time. Most of us don't have that luxury. As a publisher, you just have to rely on cookies. It is one of the crappiest forms of identification out there. Cookies were good when we had one device and one browser. That's not the case anymore. It's not 2003. We have multiple devices, multiple browsers, multiple sessions. Cookies are getting cleared and deleted. People go incognito all the time. Cookies are just not a good form of identification. I make this silly analogy. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie 50 First Dates. If you're using cookies, you're basically like Drew Barrymore's character in this movie. So in this movie, Drew Barrymore suffers a head injury. She can no longer remember anyone she meets. So every day is like a brand new day. Adam Sandler, in love with her, wants to draw himself closer to her, but she keeps forgetting him every single day. So if you're using cookies to identify your visitors are like Adam Sandler, and you're like Drew Barrymore. They come, and you're like, oh, hey, I've never seen you before. And your visitor's like, what are you talking about? I love you. I come here all the time. I want to get closer to you. But you're treating them like a new visitor whenever their cookies have been cleared. They're coming in from a different browser or a different device. So don't be like Drew Barrymore in 50 First Dates. I don't know if you guys know, Avinash, he's been at Google for about 12 years, really, really sharp guy. Recently he said, cookies as an identity are now only for those that don't care about their digital business. Pretty strong words. Now I know what a lot of you are thinking. You have it figured out, right? Oh, we use first-party cookies. Oh, we have a CDP. Oh, we have a DMP. Oh, we have a CRM. Oh, we have our own homegrown solution. The problem is, regardless of whether you're first-party cookies, third-party cookies, a CDP, whatever you're using there, which is better than nothing, right? Better than that very rudimentary just segmentation I mentioned earlier. Bad news is all of those still rely on cookies. And so you're going to be hamstrung by the shortcomings of cookies. I mean, we can get into why cookies are not the best form of identification, but I think you guys get the point of that one. So the bad news is all of those tools rely on cookies, and if you don't have someone logging into your website and you're relying on cookies, it's going to fall short in terms of creating that long-term value on each individual person-by-person basis to bring lasting lifetime value to your business. Good news is there is a better way. I promised you I wasn't going to pitch you on Bouncex, so I'm not. But if you guys want to chat about identification, you want to chat about segmentation and how to get different users to take different actions on your site and maximize that revenue per user, please find me. Love to chat with you about our approach to identification, segmentation, and conversions. That is it for me. Don't know if anyone has any questions or not. I don't know if there is an open forum for Q&A or anything, but.
Well, Andres,
or if anyone cares.
First of all, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Big round of applause. Hey, Joe. Give me a step here. This is live. I'm live. Any questions for Joe while we have him here? If not, you have a team here.
Yeah.
Where's your team in this room? A team of one, that guy back there. What is your name, sir? Jason. Okay. Any questions for Andres while we have him here? If not, we can get you guys connected.